Well, it looks like my phone is not working right today. So this will be a colorless Independence Day. But independence isn't what you think it is. Independence means non-political voters' government. And the government is called the United States of America. And it's not the nation, and it's not the country. Now, the people of the United States of America are the Founding Fathers, who represent England, and the non-political voters' government that started in 1803. But before they wrote the Declaration, they had to write the Lee Resolution. In a book called The Keys to the Constitution, Tip O'Neill said that we used to have a unicameral government once. That means one person in the Congress. And he said it was more efficient. And of course it was. But see, the supreme law of the nation is the Declaration. And it's the national treasure. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm the real-life character that Nicolas Cage portrayed in the movie The National Treasure. Because my great-great-grandfather worked at the Ford Theater, and he sold the gun to John Wilkes Booth that shot Mr. Lincoln. And when they shot him over politics. So, the Declaration is the one and only executive order that we have. All men are created equal. And the only person equal to the first ambassador of America is the second ambassador. That's why the elections are supposed to be a contest between the presidents and the citizens about representation. But the supreme law of the nation says that when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people. Well, the reason why it says one people is because out of the many, which is the public, there can only be one who represents the public. So out of many, one representative in a system based on representation. And the Constitution is a non-political government job contract. And there are one employer, the representative who was chosen. E.PLURIBUS is not the motto, it's the name of the next chosen representative of the people by the owner of the land, the King of France, who decided that he would rent the temporary English government organization of Thomas Jefferson the land until his envoy arrives in the nation. And it's not a race for two houses, it's a contest between citizens and men. So we're not included in the Constitution, which means there's no debates, there's no policies, there's nothing to talk about. People aren't in the Constitution. It's about the rules of the election of the president, the vice president, and the senators and the representatives. The presidents were hired to receive their executive, Mr. E.PLURIBUS. And our employees, who sat in the second and third chair of the first temporary district of Washington, do not have the right to change our laws or the rules of our government. Not without the owner's permission. And everything that they've done since 1803, they haven't had the owner's permission. So, it's a contest. And all contestants must be for the people. And there's only one election in the fall. See, these people have stolen $22 trillion from us. From our share of our corporate contract that you don't know about on the back of the $1 bill. And this corporate contract was explained by the government to all the people in 1963 on a TV show in the morning. And it explains that the representative of the nation is Mr. E.PLURIBUS. And the two men working for him represent England and the Illuminati. And they're supposed to be for the people. So, we have a right to a choice. In God, we trust one. the presidents and Illuminati on the right, or your national representative, Mr. E.PLURIBUS, and on the left? It's a question. And the answer is on every coin. It says, in God we trust, E.PLURIBUS. Because he's the only one out of the many who represents the many. And he's the only one qualified to do business for the Republic nation. And that's exactly what the Constitution says. See, what they did was they edited your history. There was no revolution because it happens from the inside. It was an invasion. The British are coming. The British are coming. And they lost. So the King of France told the King of England that this is what we're going to do. We're going to lease the land to you, which is a rental or purchase, until his envoy arrives. When his envoy arrives, the USA temporary English government is over with. But they're lying to you. There's 3 houses, not 2. And there's 3 presidents, not 2. The president of the nation outranks the president of the government. And the only rights you have are in the Declaration. And it's your right and your duty to overthrow the government, but not until they have excessive national debt. So when Mr. Obama and Joe Biden took the national debt from 10 trillion to 22 trillion, I requested to have a public decree made. I requested to be the already appointed national representative, a citizen whose name is Mr. E.PLURIBUS, that's listed above the presidents in the Constitution. And the presidents sit in the 2nd and 3rd chair in the 1st temporary district. The supreme legislative branch of the government created the lower 2 branches of the government. And according to Parliament, when the upper chamber of the House of Representatives, which is the White House, is open, then the lower 2 branches of the House and Senate, which are English, do not function. So, if you remember when the Speaker quit, it's because I enacted the appropriate legislation. I notified him that I have the absolute majority. And that's why he quit, not because of Hillary Clinton, because of Mr. E.PLURIBUS. Then I spent 2.5 years explaining to the government what was wrong with the government and why the new government is different and how it's going to work. Little did I know that they was going to steal all this classified information, Donald Trump in particular, and broadcast it everywhere, all over the media, and claim that he said this and he said that. But see, everything that he said, he plagiarized from me. Because Donald Trump is not a president. He is an actor. And he was hired by the 200 chromium companies to pretend to be the president. But what happened was, Mr. Obama completed the mission that he was hired for in 2012. Hired to receive his executive, he did just that in 2014. So the Russians couldn't meddle. They have no reason, they have no motive, no means or opportunity. But the English, who all sat on the floor and protested when they all lost their seats in both houses, they had a good reason to meddle. Because they wanted to change the outcome of the 2016 election, which got canceled in 2014, by one of the people meeting the burden of the people. The most important thing about the government is that it is the burden of the people that was caused by the election of 1803, when our representative stepped down and left our seat open. He left us excluded, and then we're not included in the Constitution. And for 212 years, nobody had any rights. But we have to wait for excessive national debt. So, only by an act of God. You see, it was a preordained event. Everybody knew that the politicians was going to overthrow our government, and everybody knew they was going to steal our money because they represent England. There's nothing authorizing a Federal Reserve Bank or a federal government. We have a federal monarchy. We are still a colony according to the 13th Amendment. But not anymore, because I destroyed their underlying monarchy constitution. And they said they voted to leave, but they did not vote to leave. I kicked them out because their mission is over. So for $22 trillion missing dollars, Mr. Obama violated the supreme law of the nation. And he failed to comply with the written orders of the Constitution, which orders him to tell you that Mr. E.PLURIBUS is the executive, and that the presidents have the inability to perform their duties because they're the stand-in in my office. But the president is the president, and the executor is the executor. The executive is the executor. And when I arrive in the government, by an act of God, at the same moment Congress is ordered to check to see if anybody had a majority in every state, a federal judge was making a national decree saying that I shall be known to be called Mr. E.PLURIBUS. That ends the government. But Mr. Obama ended the government when he stole $11 trillion. So, he didn't tell you that the Congress was permanently dismissed on 20 November, and he didn't tell you that they were prohibited from having any more elections. But the collusion is on 7 December 2015 and 7 December 2016 on the congressional records. You have to read it for yourself. It's really pretty horrible. They make 900% off of an anti-terrorist insurance policy for the terror that they create. All of the wars are planned in advance, and they pushed back nuclear disarmament by 100 years. There are no presidents after Mr. Obama. He is the very final last one. That's why it's a temporary government. The second chair can't give itself more power than it already has. We hired 2 men to run the office of the executive until one of the many unrepresented people learns how to represent the people. We hired 2 men to run the office of the executive until the executive arrives in government. Not 4 million. You see, the states are independent, and they're independent of each other. And they cannot represent other states, and altogether the states cannot represent the nation. That's why there's 2 congressional representatives. Thomas Jefferson was in the government of ourselves, the upper chamber of the House of Representatives from 1776 to 1803, where he stepped down out of the first chair of the employer into the second chair of the employee. There's no political parties. Jefferson never had a party. Well, Lincoln never had a party. It's all a lie. They edited it. But it says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to separate the political bands that we have been connected to. Well, it's a job announcement. So I announced that I accept the job, and I changed my representation from for myself to for the people. And I told the Queen of England, don't expect me to act like anything else other than the independent state. And she flipped me off. So they took all of my stuff and they gave it to Donald Trump to trick you into voting in a previously canceled election. Rule 2 of the House of Representatives says that I am the other congressional representative. I represent the District of Columbia, and I represent Jefferson's District of California, the first supreme legislative branch of the government where the qualification prerequisites came from. These people have no authority, and they're not in our government, and they're not in our Constitution. The parliamentary restrictions that were put on Congress of the USA temporary English government are called constitutions. And the reason why it's temporary is when they signed the Constitution, they surrendered to its terms. So our employees can't make laws, change laws, or change the Constitution. They was hired to amend the Articles of Freedom of the Confederation of French Polynesia. That's America. But they didn't do that. They wrote their own restrictions. And Lewis and Clark went around and replaced all of the French survey markers with English ones. And they're pretending that the USA, which is the name of the government, they're pretending that the colonies became the government. But the colonies never became the USA. The colonists sided with the French and the Indians. They were anti-federalists. They were against England. So it wasn't a new nation. The Republic Nation of America, or the Confederation of French Polynesia, got invaded by 6 different foreign countries. These people are a bunch of liars and a bunch of thieves. And so far, they've been separated into the media. But the first thing they ever did was the Lee Resolution. And it says that only I, the representative of the independent state, has the right to shut down the government. So our employees can't shut down the government. So on 5 December 2014, I became the representative, and they all lost their positions. But they all got paid the 20 November 16, right? So during that time, Donald Trump colluded with Mr. Obama, and they made 3,000 YouTube videos that are against the Republic Nation. So after 19 months of compliance, I turned Mr. Obama into every single agency, because he didn't do what he was ordered to do. But the only executive order we have is the declaration. So after the separation, which was by December 2014, on 1 January 2015, I enacted the one and only executive order that we have, the National Treasure. Written by the first executive, it can only be executed by his legal successor, Mr. E.PLURIBUS. And after 19 months of non-compliance, I turned Mr. Obama into every agency, and I enacted the secret enactment clause of the supremacy law of the Lee Resolution. The Lee Resolution unestablishes the USA. It disenfranchises them. They got nullified. They got abolished. They got annexed. And a whole bunch of other things happened to them. But see, they're lying to you. They don't want to tell you that they stole $22 trillion and that they're not in office anymore. But Rule 44 of the House of Representatives says that the USAGovernment.org is a private non-profit organization. And if you doubt that I don't have this job, then find something called the difference between a profit and a non-profit organization. And that's where Thomas Jefferson wrote down my job description. But the declaration is a job application and an announcement for one person who is represented in the non-political government job contract as the representative whose name has already been chosen. It's an open, already appointed volunteer position for a citizen named E.PLURIBUS, and he must be for the people. So there is no race. The two houses are closed. They got separated into the media. They're not in the Constitution. They don't have no authority. They've overran our system, and they're stealing our money. And they're foreign. They're domestic terrorists. They're foreign nationalists. People born in America who represent England, and they're domestic terrorists. A politician is a domestic terrorist. They're the ones that knock down the towers. They're the ones that's stealing the money. When you vote somebody into your government who doesn't represent you, they're not legally obligated to you. And they don't have any legal obligation either. But the Constitution says that only I can swear somebody into our nation or government. And it says that you cannot be in the civil office of trust and authority if you are associated with a politician. So Donald Trump is fake. The people don't have the power to vote Donald Trump into somebody else's private, non-profit organization. Everything is a lie. They're trying to give all of my information. I designed a freeway to go around America that would be a tourist attraction, but it would also stop the waves, because they're mining the poles with underground nuclear blasts, because they think in 20 years they're not going to have enough water for them. So, they want to drown everybody. They want a sudden emergence of water all around the earth at 500 feet. So that's why I told every nation, look, you have to build a freeway, like China did. But Donald Trump saw dollar signs, and he's trying to turn it into an immigration wall. But see, immigrations are where the sons of the English immigrants who lost their invasion of America, they tried to burn down the records of the 13th Amendment so you wouldn't know that we're still a colony. And they killed Lincoln over slavery. But like I said, it was passed down to me by my family that E.PLURIBUS is the representative, and he has authority over the temporary English government. So, the Constitution, a contract was legally concluded by Mr. Obama. he received his executive in 2014. And Decision 2016 was canceled, and so is Decision 2020. There is no President Trump. I have a majority in every state. I represent every person in every vote. And you just can't vote him into my government because it's a congressional representatives only club. And Donald Trump is not a member. But he's an English banking embezzler. And when you find out how much he raised the national debt, he is in the closed district. The Constitution says that we're having an internal insurrection right now. That's when our fired government officials refuse to get out of the closed district. And they're using the media to do all this stuff to us. We are under attack of a form of psychological warfare called social deprivation. And social deprivation causes crime. Then they give us guns so we can kill each other, and everything is a prison state. They make $80,000 a year off of every person in jail. They open a bank account in your name with $1 million in it on the day you're born, but they don't tell you about it. And they keep all that money. But they're very horrible people. Donald Trump is full of shit. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's a con man. And he has no authority. And he's using all my stuff. I can prove everything that I said first. But see, I tricked Donald Trump. Right? And I tricked the CIA. And I tricked the old fired government. Because they want to exploit me. Well, hey. The more they exploit me, the more they self-identify themselves as being not in our government. So every person in America should get $120,000 a year, tax-free for life, free housing, free education, and free health care. This is what I said on Twitter in 2015 before Donald Trump had me arrested for using the free Wi-Fi here at one of my churches in my home city. I was passing him up. They changed my name to a girl. They called me Hillary Clinton, or Crooked Hillary. Donald Trump called me Crooked Hillary. Mr. Obama called me Radical Islam. Hillary Clinton called me Donald Trump. Or they told me they changed my name to a girl. They call me Michelle or Oprah. You know. And now they call me Donald Trump while Donald J. Trump is the apprentice. And now they're saying that I'm in Bonk and Trump because Mr. Obama ordered them not to say my name. But the collusion and the obstruction is there. And Donald Trump is not the president. He is in a closed district. And the people didn't vote him into a private, non-profit organization. And there is no election 2020. All votes are for the Republic nation. The USA government has been forfeited all of its debt. So instead of paying them $750 billion to not represent us, we should all get $120,000 a month for life. And there's only one thing stopping us from getting our money, and that's a fake president named Donald Trump. Nobody can prove that he's in the government. No one can prove that his parties have authority because they don't. You have to be specifically mentioned in the Constitution or you're just not in the government. But see, I'm in the Constitution and I'm allowed to be there. And I outrank him, and I fired Toomey, and I fired Donald, and I fired Hillary, and I fired Bernie, and I fired Obama. If the government wasn't shut down, because on the 9th of May, I enacted the Supremacy Law. And it says that our independence doesn't begin until somebody does that. And I did it on the 9th. So our independence just started, a couple years ago. And Donald Trump isn't the president, and that job doesn't exist anymore, according to the first signed draft of the Constitution. They turned the Constitution into an entrenchment of itself. That means that everything is unconstitutional, just so they can make their temporary jobs permanent. But they're just here to steal the money, and we need to get them out of each and every county. Because, see, the new government is at county level. You can vote for a judge, you can vote for a mayor, you can vote for a sheriff, right? And any local issues that you want to vote for. But you can't vote for an English foreign politician because that's how they steal the money. They're not legally obligated to you. So when you vote them in, they just take it and we can't do nothing about it. But see, now you can't vote for them because you know that they represent England and that this is America. A book called The Keys to the Constitution says that all executive orders since 49, are unconstitutional because the president is just not the executive. And everything is a lie. And they're using the media to hide the truth from you and to hide your benefits from you. But see, the burden of the people, when we have the burden, when we're not represented, the politicians, the presidents answer to an empty chair for 212 years. But when one of the people represents the people, then that becomes a permanent congressional and presidential disability. So when England signed the Constitution that they wrote of their own restrictions, they surrendered to the terms of it. The Declaration is unratified, and the alternate mode of ratification is through the civil court. I have the right and the duty to overthrow the government. So you go to the job contract and you look at the position above the president, and that's how you overthrow them. They sit in the second chair. Donald Trump is not a president, and the amount of money that he has stole, you're going to find out that it's even worse than Obama. But he's not a president. He's a rogue citizen. And the American people shouldn't have to listen to all these hoaxes that just going to hide the fact that they got fired. Nobody meddled with Russia, didn't do anything. I hacked the election with the Declaration, the Constitution, and the Lee Resolution. And everything is as I say, because my job is to list the abuses of the system. I'm not getting anything out of this, but I represent every person that was ever born or died since our nation started in 1776. And so they're all lying to you because the USA never became, the colonies never became the USA. They sided with France. They were anti-federalists, and that's what we are. We are against England because so far they've stole $22 trillion. And so the British are leaving, One is by land to a gold jet, or two is by sea on the Queen Mary 2. Or we have no choice but to have a county reckoning and remove all of the illegal English politicians, county by county by county. And that would be the last resort, and would be done non-violently. Independence Day started on the 9th of May, 2016. So, the 9th of May, 2017 was the 1-year anniversary. The 9th of May, 2018 was the 2-year anniversary. And the 9th of May, 2019 will be the 3rd anniversary of our independence. Because the Lee Resolution says that that's when it begins. So, do not watch the media. We can shut them all off and not watch them and not listen to them, and they'll lose all their ratings and they'll go broke and they won't be able to afford the next fake election. I am for the people. I have no reason to lie. I am a Christian. I believe in God. And I was raised in apostolic churches, but I went to Catholic school. And I represent the king, the owner of the land, His Most Christian Majesty of France. And they all represent England. And if you want to know who they really are, just read something called the Treaty of the King of Persia. It's a 400-page document telling you why they're not allowed to be in our government. So, this is not Independence Day, it's just the 4th of July. Our independence began on the 9th of May, 2016. And forever that will be the day. And my successor is the person who has the highest IQ that is non-affiliated with any politicians. So freedom and independence means freedom from England, their bank, their control, and their government. and their politics. So, the independent voters' government that started in 1803 ended in 1863 when they overthrew our government from the inside. The illegal immigrants are sons of English immigrants. They let illegal immigrants into our country so they can illegally vote for the illegal politicians who only lead us to war and kill our children and cost us money. And that's what they're doing, and I'm not lying. These are the truths that we all hold to be self-evident. Because, see, one person who is not for himself has sovereignty over the government. He's got the Constitution in his right hand, and he's got the Declaration in his left hand, and the Lee Resolution is his shield. And it says that it disestablishes the unestablished establishment. Rush Limbaugh is a liar, and all of these news hosts are liars. They are producing fake news. Donald Trump is the leader of the coup. He's the leader of the fake news, and he is not in the government. He's in the media, and every word that he says is the trump of the beast. Have a good day, America. This is Mr. E.PLURIBUS, the second congressional representative of the people, being blocked by every single fired politician that there is, just so they can steal more. Now it's up to us.